let's get started for today. Really appreciate you all spending some time with us this evening for our Industry Talk series. We have a guest today that I'm really excited to speak with based upon our interactions throughout the last couple of years and getting to know one another, and a really interesting story to tell about career trajectory and building relationships. So just to give a little bit of background, Lori grew up in Pennsylvania, where football was a passion of hers early, but she didn't enter the competitive nature of football until later in her life. She then transitioned into coaching after a knee injury derailed her athletic career as a competitor. She went from coaching positions from high school to semi-pro to indoor, which all ended up leading her into her most previous roles in the NFL. That started as an intern with the Baltimore Ravens and then a defensive line coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. She was also the first female to be a Super Bowl coach and champion in 2021 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. She was most recently with the Tennessee Titans in doing quality control and being a defensive assistant. So we're going to start today and pivot a little bit from our typical format, and I'll start by asking a few questions. Lori will share a little bit about her journey from those questions, and then we're going to open up the floor to each of you to have an open dialogue throughout this entire session. All right, so I'll be floating around after I ask the initial question. So just to jump right in, Lori, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you would describe your career journey and where it all began.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna try not to talk in my normal tone because I don't need a mic to reach up there because it's like, it's all in front of people. Just like Dr. Calvin said, I love football from the time I was a little kid in PA. We can talk about teams later, but I was a Steelers fan. I grew up a Steelers fan, and there was just something about football, right? It was different. It was gritty, it was violent, it was fast, it was everything, and I was entranced by it. So I watched it on the weekends, obviously, but nobody else in my family was football. I didn't have any brothers, my dad was a golfer, it was kind of like just me. Grew up a fan, and like he alluded to, I didn't get a chance to play football, like play football, until I was almost 40. So I got a late start. But I loved it, right? Like you love a sport, whether it's football or anything else, you love it as a fan in a certain way. And then if you get a chance to play it, it's a different kind of love. Like you understand now the game, it's not just on TV, it kind of comes to life. And then had a knee injury, like he said, and just I couldn't stay away from it. So went back, coached at the women's level, and then based on the title, and we'll talk about it a little bit, like the relationships that I built early on were everything to my career and to where I sit today, and it's my honor to be here to talk to you guys, and please ask questions, because whatever I can answer, if it's to you personally, if it's overarching, whatever it is, but I'd love to be able to help you guys or answer things that you've always wondered about. I'm here to do that, but that's basically sort of my background and then the first part of my career.
Thank you. Now, over dinner last night, we were discussing some of our mutual contacts and some of the careers that we had overlapping. I wanted to talk about the arena and semi-pro experience first and foremost, and at what point in time did you know that this could actually be a career, something sustainable?
Yeah, so I didn't at the time. When I was coaching in the women's league, and I'll try and tie this with the relationships. My younger son was playing youth ball. So I would go like any of the other parents, and we'd sit and we'd watch practice. And it just so happened that the head coach for the high school team, the high school that I graduated from, his son was also playing. They were little, and his wife would come. And Susie knew nothing about football. She was just Joe's wife, and that was great and everything. So we would sit together and I would talk about things, and we started having sort of like a football 101 kind of conversation, and she loved it and Joe loved it because then Susie wasn't talking to him during practice. He wanted to watch. So ended up I would make index cards and I would bring them for Susie, whether it was coverage, whether it was penalties, whether it was alignments, whether it was anything, but we would kind of sit and talk about football. And then from that interaction, now she's a maniac, loves the game, could like out-talk anybody in regards to schemes, which is great. But Joe then offered me to come shadow at the high school, and that led to 9 years being at that high school. Volunteering, it's not easy in the beginning. There's not a lot of money attached to it, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there for an opportunity that is more or less an investment in your ability to get better, be around coaches, see how the inner sanctum of that sport works. And from there, I mean, we had some mutual friends, but other coaches that coached arena, we connected, they offered me positions. It's just, I've been very fortunate that, yes, I love football. Yes, I wanted to coach full time, but there was never a point in time where I ever felt like I was not where my feet were, right? Like if I was an assistant coach at the high school, I wanted to be the best assistant coach at that high school. I wasn't looking for anything, and the opportunities, because the guys knew I was there for the right reasons. I didn't want to be the news story. I just wanted to coach. They were able to sort of make recommendations on my behalf, and then you just never know who's watching, right? The high school coach that was for the opponent was the head coach for an arena team and invited me to come help them with their workouts. And from there, you're being observed. It's like an on-the-spot job interview, even if you're volunteering to do something, right? I was still trying to do my best. And from that led to a job offer with the arena team and 2 arena teams later, and it kind of keeps building if you do things the right way. And I wasn't knocking down doors, they were kind of bringing the door to me, which is the best scenario that you can ask for.
And I like how you said not necessarily knocking down doors, just the best scenario for you. Was
Right.
there like a specific moment that occurred that you can relate to, that you knew that it was a career trajectory, that it was happening, or something was building?
Yeah, I mean, so during all this time, I was working full-time in an insurance career. I was raising 2 sons, and I did football part-time, basically. I volunteered, some of the stuff was in the evenings or on weekends, so I kind of fitted around what they were doing, because I never wanted to take away from their activities or not show up for them. And I got to a point where it just became more, right? Like I was at my job, like sneaking and watching like YouTube videos on defensive line drills, or this is in the early days of Facebook, so forgive me, but I was using social media at that time to seek out other coaches. So I did wide searches. Anybody that had coach in their title, I was trying to connect with them. So to me, it was using my corporate experience, which is networking and building a framework that you can kind of rely on. I was trying to do that. And it wasn't that I was asking them for anything. I just was like, hey, I'm coaching D-line, I'm an assistant D-line coach in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I just wanted to, connect with you. If you have any advice at any point in time, that's great. But it was more or less than I was using social media. Like I went to this clinic, and it wasn't like, here I am at this clinic, click, click. It was, thank you for the opportunity to be at this clinic. And I was almost trying to like cross promote that I was there, but at the same time, I wasn't the spotlight. But by doing that, indirectly, all the coaches that I had contacted had access, right? So we're using social media now for a lot of different reasons, and I'm not here to judge, but The best thing that you can do is, if you decide to coach or if you decide to go into a specific career, especially in sports, understand that social media presence 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is your resume. And if there's ever anything on there, pictures, posts, like my friends, I was like, do not post me with a picture with a drink in my hand. Do not don't tag me and stuff anymore, because to me, that was my vehicle that if Coach XYZ in New Mexico was up late one night and was scrolling, he's only seeing like clinics that I've been to or drills that I've posted. And to me, that was like the best use of my time, because I hadn't done it full time yet. And I have a tendency to try and like spin it. Like all the pictures of my family came off, all the personal stuff came off. Social media became my platform for promoting without directly asking you for a job. And then it just got to a point where I had applied for the Bill Walsh internship, which comes up every year in and around the time of the combine through like mid-March and 2017. And I got declined by every team I applied for. You can apply to 5. Got declinations from all of them. But Coach Rivera at the time was with the Panthers. He probably didn't write it. He probably just signed it, or somebody stamped it with his signature. But I got a letter. I didn't get an email. I got a letter, and I kept that letter from him. And I was able to like bring that back up to him a few times over the years where we would cross paths. But I think that it put me in a position of a crossroad, right? So nothing had worked. I was either going to go full-time back to work, because that's all I knew, and figure out what I needed to get better at. Like, if you're not going to take me this year, what do I have to do better? What is it that's missing from my experience, or what else can I do to be more ready next year? And then 2018 came around, I did the same thing, and then that was the internship with the Ravens in the D-line room with Terrell Suggs and Matt Judon and Zadarius Smith. I mean, it was, there is only one side of football, it's the defensive side. I'm sorry if I'm insulting anybody in the room. But if you're into defense, that was like the pinnacle of being able to be with a defense. And the coach there, he and I still stay in touch. He's like the D-line coach extraordinaire. He's actually with the Chiefs. He's been there for a few years now, Joe Cullen. But it was just in those moments where it was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to get in. And then we talked too. The internships are great in the NFL because it gives you that behind the scenes look. You're behind the curtain, so to speak, because even though you do it in college or even though you've been around it, there's so much that's different or that you don't know, or because you don't know what you don't know until you're there. But internships are kind of just that. It's very rare that somebody gets retained on an internship like that in the NFL. However, just the crossroad piece of it, that once I was there, I'm like, yep, this is it. The light went on, and then I fully committed to trying to do this full time. So since 2018, I've been pretty much in the league. I had a brief stint in the AAF. We won't talk about that. 2 months in Birmingham. But it was all part of the fabric right now that has kind of been my journey. So it was everything that you learn from is a good thing. So
I agree with you 100%. I probably need to cut my mic. Now, a lot of that sounds like resiliency and understanding what you were capable of and what opportunities could present itself if you didn't give up on the journey. I know that you have an interesting story about your relationship with BA. And can you talk maybe a little bit about how that came about and how that was developed and it presented an opportunity years down the road after the initial relationship was developed?
I went to Temple University, and at the time, Bruce Arians, BA, was the football coach there. My ex-husband, was a player for BA way back when, in the early 80s. And of course I had met Bruce. I mean, I got introduced to him. That was about it. But obviously he knew my ex-husband well. He was one of the players. So when I was in Birmingham, Joe Pendry, who was our GM there, was the one who actually hired Bruce into the league, and he's NFL royalty in my opinion. But we were in Birmingham. UAB had a coaching clinic. Typical, like in the spring, they bring different coaches in to talk to other coaches. And Joe had gone over to the clinic, and I didn't know anything about it, but Joe had recommended me to BA for a position. BA had made a comment at the combine earlier that year. He was looking to hire a female coach full-time, not just in the internship phase, and he was looking. And Joe came back and let me know that had happened, and I got his email and sent him my resume and just used the title 36 years later, I'd love to work with you or for you. And highlighted all the stuff that I was doing in Birmingham, and really about 10 minutes later, I heard back from him, and we talked about 2 days later after that, and he offered me the job in Tampa. And that was 4 great years working for him and for Todd.
I definitely wanted to bring that question up because I know that part of your story, and I thought that's really beneficial for our students. That's one of the lectures that I lead with in my courses is the power of networking and building relationships over time. Yeah. After that initial hire, talk to me a little bit about your duties that or tasks that you took on in Tampa.
Yeah. So, how many of you guys are involved with football now? Okay. Other sports at all in the room? Okay. So, and it could be like this. I'm just going to talk about football for just a brief second. In football, every day is definitive, right? So every Monday, let's just talk season. We play on Sunday. Monday, all the film has already been broken down Sunday night of the opponent that we just played. We have 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks of opponents that we're about to play broken down. Monday, the guys come in. If it's not Victory Monday, we're watching the film with the guys. Everything's graded. We talk about everything. And then pretty much the players are out for the day because Tuesdays, they're off. We immediately, as a coaching staff, start game planning for the upcoming opponent. So whatever segment of the game plan you had, I had screens and gadgets for the past couple of years. So I had to have my reports ready. So it was very valuable to have PowerPoint experience. It's very valuable to have Excel experience so you can, do strats and you can slice and dice things a certain way. You know how to do formulas. It's a whole thing, but your reports are to show tendencies within the film that you've studied for the upcoming opponent so that the calls that are going into the game plan are pertinent to that situation, that time of the game, that field position, that scoring drive, like anything, like we have to have everything planned for. That's why it's a game plan. So Mondays, we're working on that. Tuesdays, the coaches present to one another. So on the defensive side, within the room, each coach in each segment is reported on. Then you have to put the install together, which is all the calls then that you're about to use for that upcoming opponent. It's a whole thing, but you use all of Tuesday to report and plan, and then Wednesday you do your installs. So every Monday's the same, every Tuesday's the same. We install first and second down on Wednesdays, and then it's practice and it's walkthrough, and you watch the film, and this sort of repeats, right, throughout the week until you get to Sunday. It's like that with about 1,000 other variances that can happen. Like I was joking with him in the car. I'm like, sudden change because of the room change tonight. Like, you just have to be ready to pivot. You have to be ready in an assistant role to drop everything you're working on if one of the position coaches or the coordinator or the head coach asks for something specific. Maybe they saw something in 2020 when they were with a different team and they want to see the cut up of every time that he's on the field and the other tight ends on the field together. I mean, it could be anything. You have to be ready to just pivot on the fly, and then still get back to your stuff because you're still required to get your own work done. But it's just this constant evolving of prepping for an opponent, prepping 2 weeks ahead, putting this opponent to bed, reporting on this one, and it just sort of circles the whole way through at least 20 weeks, because you break down some of preseason. You hope that you get a few playoff games, which in Tennessee we didn't get a chance to do. But there's never not something to do. There's never not a time, even late at night, where you're like, man, I should probably just look at that one more time, or I should probably break down one more game, because it tells a story. You have to tell a story of an opponent so that you do the things that are the best that you can, like prep the players and give them the data going in to hopefully be successful.
And that's really interesting to hear, and that you spend that amount of time trying to break down the opponents. What's a specific time that occurred in which you spent 16 hours in a day prepping for the entire week, and then you had to pivot? And I know you shared one example about the Michigan example earlier.
Yeah, so
hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our typical, and just so you guys know, every team's different, but on average, at least Monday through Wednesday, you're looking at like 14 to 16 hour days, easily. And if the coordinator wants it any differently, it could be even longer than that. But one of the things that you really want to try and do in the segment that you're assigned is find tendencies. So I don't know. I mean, again, I'm guessing the hands that went up with the football, we kind of all know what a screen pass is. Okay, we'll go with that. So there was an opponent that we had, and wherever the offensive coordinator comes from prior to the season that you're in, you have to go back and look at that team, which can be a little confusing at times, because you could be playing Dallas, but you're watching Chicago film to get your tendencies. Different players, different situation. But if the offensive coordinator has come from another team or come from college, you're trying to script his tendencies. So you don't necessarily you can look at the players, but you have to really game plan for the coordinator, if that makes sense. So going back to a team that we had played this year, the coordinator came from college. So I thought, it'd be really interesting. And obviously I don't have any NFL film of his to watch because he just came from college. And I went back and grabbed the teams from his college season that mimicked or were close to the defense we were running. And I found this anomaly of a play. It was, again, this is going to get technical, but for the people in the room, I apologize. It was tackle over, and it was a quad bunch set outside of the numbers, and it was weird. It was like a one-off, but they threw a screen pass off of it, and I'm like, that's kind of janky, and I included it in my presentation. Not so much that they do it all the time, but it was wild. And then found that they had also done it his very first game in the NFL. They ran it against one of our opponents. So I was like, there's something to it. And then sure enough, in our game, they ran it. We didn't play it right, but they ran it. So at least, I'm like, there's some method to my madness of showing that this could possibly occur, because obviously this guy had this one, wasn't really a trick play, but it was this one formation that spoke to him when they were in need of a screen. And it's just nuggets like that you look for along the way. You can never make up a tendency, because it doesn't make sense to drill guys or have guys practice on things that are not going to occur or that occur maybe 1% of the time. You're looking for like 75 and above of percentage. If they have both these tight ends in, it's 75% pass. If these two tight ends are in, if it's those two tight ends, it's 75% run. Those are like the analytics and the statistics that kind of come into play a lot when teams are trying to put together a game plan.
And NFL being a game of margins, one wrong play can cause you to lose or win. Mm-hmm. How much are coaches changing up what they do, given the fact that they know that they have analysts and other individuals in different programs that are studying them 16, 17 hours a day and prepping for them?
Right.
I imagine there has to be some longevity to your career, and you'd have to pivot and change your concepts and your schemes.
Are you talking about like the use now in the league with the analytics and all of that?
Right. So once a tendency or a scheme or a down and distance is, and the plays and tendencies for that down and distance are recognized, how do you sustain a career when you know that you're being analyzed and your
there's still a human factor to it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can slice and dice and put a number. You can put numbers together, but if player A trips over a blade of grass, it throws the whole equation out because he was supposed to do this by tendency. You have some head coaches that really depend on the analytic portion of it. It's a very hot topic right now, and AI is going to possibly play a role in that. But how that's utilized, or the coaches that embrace it. I mean, I've worked for coaches that would have all of the analytics in a binder. It was probably 3 inches thick up in the booth, and they had somebody monitoring that binder so that they could say, it's 4th down, it's on the plus side of the field, it's on the left hash, they have these people in, it's this personnel group, the quarterback's under center, what is the possibility of them gaining a first down? Because you can really narrow it down to that level, that granular level. And then I've had other coaches that want nothing to do with it. They're gonna go with what they see on film, they're gonna go with their gut, and they're gonna make the calls based on what they know the team can do, as opposed to really putting everything onto the opponent. So there's a lot of different schools of thought to that. It's really dependent upon the mentality of the coach or the coordinator and how much they want to integrate that into the game plan.
So in that regard, then, how would you, or how have you dealt with like pushback against what you're suggesting to the coach, and this should occur?
It's collaborative, right? Like, and I think that I've been lucky with the coordinators. Like, they want collaboration. There's not like a dictatorship at all. And if that's the case, then you don't meet as much because they've already got all the answers, so to speak. But there's never been anybody that I've worked for that hasn't wanted feedback, because everybody brings a different perspective, right, to the table. And he may not agree with it, and that's fine, but that's all part of it. That's part of the discussion. That's part of like why you meet for hours. I mean, these meetings, these meetings go long, but they have to, right? The NFL is a production-based business. Everything that we do has to be towards winning together with the players that we have, with the scheme that we have, whatever it is, but everything has to be buttoned up before the players come in on Wednesday. And you still make adjustments, but the overall majority of it is, this is kind of in stone for that opponent.
Okay. Let's transition into our next segment here of what's not in the job description. And kind of going down these same lines, I wanted to ask, sitting in the Tampa Bay room, in Baltimore and in Tennessee, what are some of the conversations or the things that happen amongst the discussions in the coaching staff room that aren't necessarily in the job description that you could point out to our students?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, it'll be different wherever you end up, bless you, wherever you end up. I think the biggest thing as far as what I've noticed is that you're together for hours and days and weeks, and it really does become sort of like a collective. And I don't want to say family, but it kind of is. So there's a lot of ebb and flow to it. You kind of need to know when to sit and listen and kind of stay in your lane on things. And that's, you know, sometimes it's hard. If you feel very strongly about something, you really want to make sure that this point is kind of out there. But it's a dynamic, right? It's like if you have brothers or sisters, if you have a job right now, you know that there's times like it's just probably better to let it go. And you're going to be better for it. My thing always is, and I think the guys, and especially in Tennessee, because it was an older staff, there was really no drama, which was lovely to work with because they had done it for years. They, you know, they weren't stressed. They weren't trying to like scrape and be political and like get to the top. Like the ambition piece of it is there, but it's not so overly pronounced that it hits you in the face all the time. You kind of have to watch your back because they're going to do whatever they can to get to the top. It wasn't like that. So that was like a blessing in disguise. So the dynamics are very similar to a family. I had a lot of brothers. I had a lot of little brothers I didn't want or need, but they were there. A lot of teasing, a lot of, you know, sometimes you gotta roll with the punches and be the butt of the joke, and then you're right in to help bring the joke to somebody else. I mean, it's just so many hours together. You just have to find ways to keep your own peace, to stay on the path that you want to, and then still build relationships that are going to be of value to you, not only in the building, but maybe down the line.
And football, I can attest to that, is probably one of the best camaraderie situations that someone can be involved with, as far as my opinion goes. I wanted to talk about, on our ride here, we talked about some emotional tolls that happened during your time in Tennessee.
Sure.
One particular instance. And I wanted you to talk about how that camaraderie came into play amongst the coaching staff and the support that you received.
Yeah. So most of the coaches that I worked with are family guys. They have, you know, wives and kids. A lot of them are smaller. One of the coaches that I value a ton is Mike Vrabel. And if you've ever just seen Vrabes on TV, his persona is pretty much the same in the building. High energy, very curt sometimes in his answers, but when it really comes down to taking care of the people on his staff or his family, he's truly, he's one of the best guys ever. My younger son, who lives in Tampa with me, had a health scare. And I had this is my first year in Tennessee, so, you know, I'm minding my P's and Q's, I'm on it. You're not gonna, you know, I'm gonna outwork everybody, at least I tried. But he had a health scare to the point where he was being taken to the hospital in an ambulance one night when he called me, and I was just, what do I do? Don't have any family in Tampa. He moved down with me. It's me, him, and the dog. And I took it to my DC. My DC said, go talk to Vrabes. And as I'm sitting there just trying to process everything, he whips out his phone and he's, you know, doing stuff on his phone. And I was trying to get out everything without breaking down in front of him. And he's like, you're on a 9 o'clock Southwest flight back to Tampa. He's like, I don't want you back here until it's okay. Like, you take whatever time you need and you go without question. I didn't ask. He did it. But that's the kind of guy that he was, and that's the kind of coaches that really have an impact on their players, because it's not just for the cameras, right? Like, he truly cares about all of the players and their coaches and their families. BA was the same way. Todd Bowles was the same way. It's a very taxing profession. It's mental, it's emotional, it's physical, it's monetary, it's all the things. So when you get somebody who's like a true like servant leader and can really kind of encompass everybody and cares about them, you want to do everything you can. Like, everybody will tell you they want to run through a brick wall for Braves, and it's not just because he still looks like he could play football. It's because of his actions like that in the building, and you know that he actually individually cares about each one of you. That's the type of coach he is, and that was, I mean, I'll never forget that. He really kind of saved my family in a way that it can never be repaid.
And we talked a little bit about that and how that stands out to have a coach in such a gladiator type mentality to show some emotion and show that they care for you as well.
See, we all knew that in the building. It's everybody else that didn't know that. It was the cameras don't pick that up. But yeah, he's a great guy.
Thank you. Let's transition into our next segment, which is the advice for students. You shared a lot about your career journey and what got you in the position that you are in now. Looking back on all of the steps that have happened throughout the years and the different teams that you coach for, what's one piece of advice that you would give to our students that are looking to go into the NFL and get an NFL coaching job, that perhaps in the generation that we live in now, of now, everything now, would help them and understand about long-term career trajectory?
Right. How many of you guys want to get into coaching? Couple? Cool. So it may be a little bit different for you guys. And I don't want to make it like, you know, how it is for young women getting in, because for the guys, it's a little different, right? Like, your hierarchy has been set from the time that you were 6 and started playing. You know, what it does is you develop that relationship without realizing it. Because when you get to a certain level and you're being considered for some of these jobs, you're going to be able to say, oh, I played with him at Kansas. His dad was my youth coach. I was with his brother, you know, on this team, whatever it is. And those type of connections, you don't realize how valuable they are, but those are the things. And that's why when we were putting the title of this presentation together, like, I didn't want it to be about, you know, breaking barriers or something like that, because to me, relationship building is so key. Like, there's no way that I probably would have gotten in the door with Bruce Arians had I not known him. Like, I mean, there's people right now you're making relationships with that you may call on, God forbid you have to wait 36 years. However, like, it's just that important, though, that as you continue to move up, you'll be able to say, I was here, and then somebody that you know that's here knows somebody else somewhere else that knows somebody else somewhere else, and that's basically how you kind of get pulled through. The only thing that I will say for coaching, and more so it's been my advice for young women who want to get into it, is that it's truly not for everybody. And that's not to dissuade you. Like, if you want to do it, I was saying, we were talking the other day, and I heard a quote, and it like so resonated with me. It's, for women in sport in general, it's going to get so much better. You guys have seen this flag football like explosion. You've seen like how now money is being put into women's sports and they're being televised, and it's only going to go up from here. But there can be times for young women in sport where you're doing things that have not yet been done before, or you may be in a male prevalent, let's never say dominant again, male prevalent space, and it's isolating. Like, there's not a lot of us that do what I do, or maybe do what you guys do, right? And the quote that I heard that really was like, man, that's on point, is that nobody is gonna come save you, but also nobody's gonna stop you. So if you have a mentality of, this is something I want to do, then you have to be able to find the path as a young woman to kind of piece it, because we don't have a real definitive career path. And it'll happen, it's just gonna take time. It'll have to be, there's gonna be a high school coach that gets hired by college. And from college, then they're gonna become a position coach and then a coordinator at college to be able to move to the pros and then have the same type of career path that our male colleagues do. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just gonna take time. So I've always said, like, the NFL is not like a add hot water and stir type of career. Like the stuff you see on TV, you'll see stuff on me, God forbid. I know you all are tired of seeing a lot of the stuff that gets posted, but like Jen King or Kelly Brownson or Katie Sowers, like media really focused on us, but they never showed you the work that it took to get there. Like to me, that was like the end result. You know, like here they are. Well, yeah, because I've been working in football almost 20 years and Jen was doing something and Callie was playing like national team. Like there's so many steps that get left out of it. And so I want you to understand that it's possible, right? Instead of being like role models, like I've always said, like I want to be like a possibility model. I'm living proof it's possible, but what you choose to do is your path. To me, a role model is always like, you've got to do things exactly the way I've done them. You don't. This is your story, your path, your ability to create relationships. And I know this is probably jumping sideways, but a relationship that you build is not transactional if it's truly something of value for you. It can't be, hey, I want to connect with you because I want a job. I want to connect with you because I want to learn. And if you have the time available and have a discussion, that's great. If not, I just want to let you know, I'm a fan of your work, whatever that is. It's touching base with somebody for no reason. I was just sharing with him today. There's a guy I went to high school with that, I mean, we've stayed in touch on and off 3 years. He's a coach. Just hit me up out of the blue, just checking up on you, wanted to see what you're doing, told me where he was at. Cool, you good, the family's good, yep, everything's good. That's it, that's all. But I do know that if I ever needed something from him, I could call and be like, hey, I'm applying for such and such and such. If you could put in a good word for me, because I know he knows the person who's hiring. Those are the type of connections that you just want to be able to have, but you don't ever need to need anything from them. And sometimes just doing that, they'll speak on your behalf, like Joe Pendry did for me. And maybe that's the catalyst you need to take that step beyond where you think you can go into something that you've been really dreaming about doing, whatever that is, football, sports, whatever.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I know there's a statistic, and we talked a little bit about one of your previous careers being in, I think, insurance sales, and in the sales industry being 8 to 12 contacts in order to make a sale. And I think relationship building can be looked at as the same way. It takes at least 8 to 12 contacts to build that trust for someone to speak your name.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it has to be organic. You have to be authentic. People know, like when you're trying to like get to them for a particular reason, the thing that I'll try and do, and it's either age or stupidity or both, is that I don't care who they are, I'll just walk up and introduce myself. I horrify my son when I come back. Hey, I went up and, I introduced myself to such and such. Like, you did what? I'm like, yeah, he was on the field, I was on the field. I just walked over and like introduced myself. He's horrified by it. But to me, it's like, they're people. I want to say hi. I don't do the autographs, even though, again, my son's horrified that I don't ask for some autographs for some of these guys. I don't ask for pictures. I want to like introduce myself. I want you to know who I am. I'm a big fan, whatever it is. We're on the field together, cool. I lied to Matt Ryan one time because I just introduced myself to him and I was like, yeah, we used to really hate to have to prep for you in Tampa. We still love playing Matt Ryan. But it was enough to kind of break the ice and we could stand there and kind of chit chat or whatever. That's enough for me. And like those are the type of things where people are, especially like when you're trying to approach people that maybe at the level you want to be at, they're a little on guard sometimes because they think, ugh, they're going to ask me for something. Nope. I just want to come and say, hey, you know, and then the next time, you know, you bump into that person, it's like, oh yeah, I remember you from the field, or I remember you from the class, or whatever it is. It puts it on their terms to be able to like have a good like remembrance of your interaction, as opposed to, and you know these people, like, oh, you know, like, I want to get your autograph, like, hey, can we take a selfie, blah, 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 blah. You know what? That's transactional, and that person's done. In the building, in an NFL building, it's protected space. We don't ask the players for autographs. We don't ask for pictures. You know, this is their career. We have to respect them and honor everything that they do, just the same as we want them to do for us. So I think maybe that's where it comes from too, is that I value relationships over anything. And I think that that's, you know, to me, that's the best way to go, but you have to do it in your own way.
Absolutely agree, 100%. I think I wanted to circle back one question.
No, I'm just kidding. It's okay.
Talking about the internship experience, because a lot of our students will be doing an internship in order to complete their program.
Nice.
And I wanted to ask a question about your internship experience and how valuable you think that was, and what were some of the most valuable components of the internship in translating into where you're at now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you really don't know what you don't know until you get there. Like I thought, you know, I knew a good amount about D-line, but obviously seeing it from a professional standpoint, there's so much more that went into it. And just, I think from an internship standpoint, at least my experience, is they have to find a way to prove value. Whether that's finding a coach that will allow you to do specific tasks for them, to take it off their plate, and it may feel like busy work, but if it helps them, that's your value. Or if you know a different way to set up a PowerPoint or to do graphics, like a lot of the presentations that we do to the guys have a lot of color, have a lot of movement, have a lot of graphics. We're pulling, this is the insider secrets, we're pulling stuff off the internet, you know, just to make them laugh or make them pay attention to things. If you can integrate like things like that and make it pop, some of these coaches may be a little older, and that's not their forte. But if you're able to like find like little niches to sort of fit in and provide that value to them in a way that they're not able to find it themselves, that's super helpful. And again, they'll remember you because of it. And then if it's valuable enough, we call it standing on a table, but they may stand on a table for you someday, for you to have that job or for you to get hired. And that's, again, like you're showing that you're there for the right reasons, you're there to assist, you're there to make their jobs easier, and it can be very, very well received. But again, it has to be authentic. It can't be pushy. It can't be, you know, I want to do this, I want to do this. The other girl that was with me in Baltimore was analytics intern. And we took, again, the script, practice script. And as the plays were being run on the practice script, we would determine, based on yardage gained by the offense, whether or not it was a win-loss. And then what we did was we took player participation for that particular play, that call, and then dropped it in a spreadsheet when we got in, so that we could say, every time you made this call, these three players had a higher percentage of win than these three players. And not only did it show them maybe who the best combination was on the D-line at that point in time, but it helped them for player evaluation, because if every time he was in, it was a losing grade, then they were able to be like, wow, that's a common denominator, because nobody else had a losing grade, but every time you were in, that was a losing grade. They didn't ask us to do that, but it was something that we thought, okay, well, maybe that'll be helpful. And, you know, and it was, and they utilized that, and it was just trying to think outside of the box, or taking your own experience, whatever you have here, or from corporate, or from marketing, or from sales, that you're bringing into an environment that you can look at it with a fresh set of eyes. That's very helpful.
I definitely agree, and that making yourself indispensable is what it sounds like.
Yep.
Adam Schefter said that once: get your foot in the door and make yourself indispensable.
Yep.
Great advice.
Yep.
Well, we have about 10 minutes left.
Questions.
Let's open up the floor for some questions here. Anybody have any questions that they want to ask? I should have ran up there.
You're gonna run around.
You want to meet me halfway?
Probably hear each other.
Who raised their hand? Excuse me.
Hi, I'm Maddie.
Hey.
I work for Katie Football as a sports science intern, and I'm also a PhD student here at Katie. So I kind of am just wondering what advice you have for someone who wants to transition from the college football realm into the NFL, and kind of how you deal with like burnout and kind of balancing life with work.
So we were talking about this a little bit earlier. It's difficult because once season starts, you know, depending on how the team is structured, you could be running longer hours probably than normal. And then it's just wherever that team is located, being able to like find different areas where maybe it's a quick hike or a quick bike ride, or most have fitness facilities that a lot of the coaches will use, albeit it's at some extreme hour, like 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but they get it in. And again, not to exclude the guys in the room, the NFL does have a women's forum that happens every February at the Combine. That's definitely something I'd recommend for you to try and take advantage of. It's just, not only does it give you good information and it puts you in a room with other like-minded individuals, but you also then have like an instant sort of connection with 50 other women who may get jobs in other places, and you know, it kind of spirals that way. Like I said, for me as a coach, you kind of know like when season's coming up that you're gonna work those long hours, so your body sort of just gets used to it. In the beginning, it's hard. It's really hard. There's a lack of sleep, there's a lack of maybe eating correctly, but you have all the resources available to you in the building, and I think it's just knowing what you need and being able to vocalize that in capacity of the workload or the hours, and then try and make it fit.
We have another question for you right here, Coach.
Hey,
First of all, thank you for being here. My name is
appreciate it.
And I'm also a Steelers fan, so the fans know, but that's besides the anyways, so from your perspective, with women in sports and growing and it being a lot more, I guess you could say, prevalent nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for you, and what is that kind of respect for everybody else, you know, that you work with, and that it's been for you within the sports industry?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things, and again, I've come from that like class of the Katie Sowers and Jen King and Callie and myself, we kind of all came from like that same time frame. I think that being able to do what we did when we did it outside of sort of this now push and this visibility was a testament to all of the great mentors and coaches that we had around us that were willing to give us a shot to earn it. It's tricky because you also know that at a certain point you've probably been used as an optic, and you never want to kind of buy into that, because all we wanted to do was coach. And you know, my packaging just looks a little different, but I'm there every day. I'm on the field. Like, I'm doing everything that my colleagues are doing. I just look a little different. So I think that more doors will open. My fear is that what I want is qualified women to walk through it, as opposed to women just because they're women getting an opportunity. And that, you know, I know it's not super popular in some circles to say that, but all the hard work that I've done, I don't want it erased by somebody who's not fully committed to doing it, and something egregious happens or there's a slip in judgment. That's a very broad paintbrush that will cover all of the women in sport, and it concerns me enough that that's why I will always say coaching's not for everybody. These are all the things that you need to know going in. Like, I don't want anybody to go in thinking it's one thing and having it be completely different. And I trust that the men or the women that are hiring these aspiring coaches are looking at all of that prior to even extending the ability to intern.
We have another question right here for you,
Yes.
Coach.
Hi, my name is Johnny. First, I want to say thank you for coming. My question is, I'm from the UK. A lot of the UK has been made of the touch push idea coming from coaching rugby.
Yep.
Is it, in your experience, is there any eyes on other sports and how they might be able to adopt tactics towards American football, or is that not something that's really looked at too heavily?
No, I think that there's never a cap or a lens that gets closed off to what could be like the next thing or what could be used against, you know, things like that. I think that the league overall really has some smart, especially the younger guys coming in that have looked at like everything. They're willing to be open to everything, and British American football is in its infancy, but it's like the purest form of football, and I think there's a lot of collaboration there. So I don't think anybody's closed off to it. We still haven't found an effective way to stop. I'll call it the wedge play as opposed to the tush push, just because it's just a mass of humans that are bonded together. But I'm going to say this wrong. Loughborough? Yeah, I was there 2 years ago. It was wonderful. It's football at its purest form over there.
Thank you. We have another question here, Coach.
Yeah. So my name is Winston. I'm teaching sport communication. So I just wonder, from your perspective, what kind of communicator or your communication style is, and how your communication style make you a successful coach? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've done very well tonight not to swear. I'll just put that out there. It's difficult because you never want to emulate or try and be something you're not. I think especially for women in sport, authenticity is the best kind of superpower that women have, or anybody in sports. But I talk to players the same way I wanted to be talked to when I played. If you've played sport, there's probably a ton of coaches you'd be like, loved it, loved them, great coach. And there's probably a handful you'd be like, if I'm ever a coach, I want to do exactly opposite of everything that they did, because you remember how they made you feel. You remember if you were motivated or not motivated by it, if you felt like you mattered. So I think that there's a way that you kind of continue to hone your language based on the player that's in front of you, their learning style, and how they hear you. Some guys or players need a very strong, direct, impactful type of speech in order to get themselves to a place where they can play, and others shrink from it. So you kind of have to get to know where that trigger lies and how to sort of dance on either side of it so that they don't crash and burn or go too far to the other direction.
Thank you.
Yep.
And one right here.
Hi, Griffin.
what was the skill that put you over the edge between 2017 and 18? And you said you went in on figuring out what you had to get better at between getting denied and accepted.
Yeah, I think what I really focused on is more the technical aspect of it from a scheme standpoint. There were times when I had some involvement with it, but I really tried to get better. The other thing was drawing cards. We did not have Visio in high school. We were doing everything on PowerPoint, and just being able to understand better the blocking schemes and how to draw those out and how to help out more on the scout team is something I was like, you know what, this is a deficiency that I see for myself, and then the guys are great in helping me get better at it.
Do we have any other questions? Speak now or? If everyone will join me in thanking Coach Lori Locust for joining us and giving us this.
Thank you guys very much for having me. Appreciate it.
So that'll conclude our industry talk for this evening. If you want to stay and perhaps have a one-on-one question, we'll hang out for a few moments, but thank you again for coming out.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.